support services. Okay. The DLU office works closely with faculty support services, and in this particular work, the Center for Learning, Teaching and Development, in its mandate to strategically deliver impactful student success programs and interventions across the entire university students demographic. Cindy, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ephraim. Okay, so good afternoon, colleagues, and we'd like to welcome you all to this afternoon's webinar. As introduced, my name is Newo Tindi from Wits University. And with me today, I also want to just highlight before I go into the presentation that I have my colleague Mpota Hale, who's the Student Development Practitioner at the Development and Leadership Unit, and also the FYE First Year Experience Coordinator at Wits University. I've got Antoinette Malchas, who's part of the Center for Learning and Teaching and Development. And I've also got Muele Ndwambi, who's also part of the Center for Learning and Teaching and Development at Wits University. These are the colleagues that our office at the Development and Leadership Unit works closely with within CLTD in order to deliver some of our programs, and in particular, the digital skills short course at Wits. As already introduced, what we are going to focus on today in our presentation are one, the challenges in the digital skills course at Wits University, and looking at some of the solutions-based evidence in response to the pandemic. We're also going to look at insights on how the creation and the inception of the university's digital skills short course were created, and this would be pre-COVID. We're also going to look at how we were able to redesign the program, its delivery, and the impact of that. And this is speaking in particular to the online offering during the COVID period. Yeah. So I do want to move this, Ephraim, because I can't quite see. Okay, so if we look at the digital skills short course at Wits, you'll see that it's designed to help first years at Wits University and with the purpose of helping them improve their digital skills and preparing them for life in university and beyond. The course is offered by the Center for Learning, Teaching and Development, which is CLTD, and the First Year Experience Program, which is FYE, through our office at the Development and Leadership Unit. And it's jam-packed with information that aims to improve the digital skills abilities of all our first years that are coming into the university. So the digital skills short course in partnership with CLTD was introduced as part of the orientation and first year experience program in 2014, and it included a pre-assessment component to the FYE program and through the orientation week program. So what we want to do in this program as Wits University is that we want to ascertain the digital skills and competencies of first years that are coming into our university space. And this is done through a pre-assessment and a completion of 4 module assessments, which we require first years to obtain 60% and above in order to pass and to be considered digitally literate and competent. So the aims of our digital skills course, I'll just go through some of them, is to guide students on how to adapt to the digital tools needed to function throughout their course and beyond. We teach students how to access, manage, integrate, evaluate, and create information. And at successful completion of this training course, as I said, the student is then provided with a certificate of competency if they achieve 60% and beyond. On completion of the short course, the student is then expected to tick a number of boxes, and that's also assessed through the short course itself. They're expected to identify major components of the computer and their functions and the system. And they need to be able to explain the purpose of operating systems and the use of typical system functions. They also need to be able to distinguish between the various applications used in the academic environment. For example, Turnitin, being able to cite or reference. And they also need to be able to locate and access the student portal for self-service sites, such as resetting their passwords, inputting their biographical information. And this is all through our learning management system, which is Ulwazi. Over and above that, we expect them to create, edit, and format, and be able to utilize Microsoft Words for the purposes of their studies. And we also take them through a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet application. And within that, they're expected to apply basic formulas and just taking them through the rig of the MS Excel program. Sorry, Ephraim, I'm really having a bit of trouble with this floating banner here. And the outcomes continued of the digital skills program at Wits University is that, we also expect them to go through Microsoft PowerPoint and to be able to create, format, and save presentations. We expect that they're able to create video presentations for as an education resource within their studies. I've mentioned that we also expect them to be able to competently use the learning management system at Wits, which is called Ulwazi, and to evaluate online resources for accuracy, trustworthiness of the information that they are accessing and utilizing, and to use the technology to be able to showcase their own learning, use email, create emails, send emails, forwarding emails, how to generate reports, apply methods to being able to interpret, Turnitin reports for the purposes of their academic program, and just using that within the LMS. So some of our sources of data and how we're able to tell who our student is that we reference the biographical questionnaire, which is administered throughout the university by our colleagues in the Analytics and Institutional Research Unit each year. And the purposes of this BQ is to be able to better understand the financial, education, and social needs of our students. And the information that we receive assists the university and all the stakeholders in offering relevant and responsive student support programs. So in particular with DLU, this would inform the type of programs that go into the first year experience program and the digital skills short course. And the information is always treated confidentially, of course, and isn't used to determine the student's academic progress within the university. So with the BQ questionnaire, as DLU and as the university administering this digital skills course, we are asking ourselves, and we are curious about what would Wits students not know, what would we not know about Wits students if we didn't have the data? And we want to use the data to get rid of any kind of assumptions that we may have about the student and the services that they need and what we should be offering to the students. So in particular to digital skills, these are some of the type of questions that we would ask within the BQ. For example, this particular question asks the student whether they have any of the following facilities. So we can see they were able to draw data about whether a student has a computer, any kind of internet connection, the type of resources they have really in order to navigate the university space and for us to predetermine how we can meet them at their point of need. So an indication in this instance would be, of course, the computers, whether they have that in their schools or in the areas that they come from, whether they've had access to science labs or any other kind of technology. Another question would be something like, did you make use of these facilities? So they were able to understand, whether our student actually has competency in using or exposure in using some of the resources like a computer, like the internet connection, and libraries where they're also able to access computers. Another thing that would inform us of the student demographic, their needs, where they come from, how we can best support these students within the BQ questionnaire is that it also highlights a lot of their fears and concerns. And if you look on the bottom right of this image, you're able to see that a lot of it is around the adapting and the adjusting and creating balance. And within that need and that fear to adapt and to adjust successfully within the university, we then know as the DLU and as CLTD that a program, a course such as the Digital Skills Program is one that's going to really help a first year coming into this space to just get up to speed and be digitally competent and be able to really adjust really well and adapt to the academic demands of the university. Another second source of our data is the Digital Skills Report. Here we'll be looking at mostly the information that came from the Digital Skills Report in 2019 and some of the information that's also drawn from the biographical questionnaire in 2019 and 2020. And what we're saying here within our reports is that the rapid digitization in the delivery of higher education has increased the demand for students to have digital literacy skills. And what research has done is that it has identified digital literacy as a key component and a predictor of student success in higher education. So everywhere where we see student success, where we see a predictor, we get involved and we are, curious about how do we help these students along and how do we ensure that we plug into the mandate of student success within the university. But we also know that with this rapid rise to digitization, there also is, the glaring data that tells us that students don't always necessarily have the competencies, they don't have the skills to cope with this transition into the university. And that could be due to the lack of exposure to computers in high school or within their learning environment or within the areas that they live in. And yeah, we see that a lot in our feedback in the BQ. We also see here that according to our Wits University BQ 2019 and 2020 report, that there was a high proportion of quintile 1 to 3 students coming into the university. We had first generation students and students that didn't use computers within their high school tenure. So these are students that are failing in terms of their digital literacy competency. And these are the type of students that we want in our digital skills short course and that we cater to within our program. We also note that a lot of these students will tell us that they access on learning sites through various types of devices. So through a cell phone or a tablet, for example. And even that also tells us that although they access through, technological devices, it doesn't necessarily mean that these students are digitally competent. And as a result, we then have to increase, our offering to this type of student. The majority of our students in 2020 completed between 3 and 4 of these assessments, which were online due to the rise in the pandemic. And, we saw a decrease from 89 to 39% from 2019 to 2022. And this we actually think, is a reflection of the change in the nature of the assessment. We went from a multiple choice kind of assessment when the digital skills course was introduced in 2019 to a more involved offering and in 2020, and what that required was a really rigorous and practical application to the assessment during orientation week and throughout the 2020 period. Okay, so this is an overview of what the cycle would look like. So quite high level, but pre the pandemic, if we can say that, this is pretty much how the cycle would look like for digital skills. As an office, we'd recruit our FYE mentors who are senior students, and they would then be trained by CLTD in digital skills. And 300 of those mentors would be selected as digital skills mentors 6 months prior to the commencement of orientation week. And they are rigorously trained, and they are given the competencies and the skills to be able to administer the digital skills pre-assessment and the classes post the pre-assessment. So our CLTD staff train 300 digital skills mentors over a 3-month period before orientation week. And we then conduct a refresher training with these FYE mentors that have been identified to plug into the program immediately in the new year prior to orientation week. CLTD and or a DLU, if I could say, for example, would then during orientation week administer the pre-assessment of the digital skills course. And that's where we require every single first year within each faculty to come into our labs and actually take the pre-assessment that predetermines their competencies. That pre-assessment provides results back to the CLTD team. And if a first year is not considered to be digitally competent, they are then invited to attend the Saturday digital skills classes, which historically would have been face-to-face classes every Saturday morning throughout semester 1, so that we can get these students competent. So the changes we experienced as a university through the pandemic is that we were required to take a program that was historically a face-to-face program with our first year mentors coming into these labs, DLU and CLTD giving the support, and experiencing first years on a face-to-face level with the pre-assessments, encouraging them to take the pre-assessment and then encouraging them further to attend the Saturday classes. We then moved online completely with the digital skills pre-assessment program. And what we saw with moving online is that it allowed Wits to record some of the content in the form of videos. And it also then allowed first years to access and revisit a lot of the content in their own time in a way that was just a bit more paced out than them sitting in a lab for 3 hours and completing the assessment. So it allowed us to really enable the students to pace themselves out in terms of their time and their ability to access this and complete the assessment. And they could access it at any time, anywhere, because the content was made available on our Ulwazi learning management system, which is also 0 rated. So that was another plus in our books. And this, along with the face-to-face sessions, led to students acquiring a better grasp of the digital skills program. And what we also then did is in semester 2, which is quite recently, we then reintroduced slowly the face-to-face Saturday sessions for our first years. And some of the lessons we've learned from our online digital skills program, we're really just looking at 5 main aspects of the intervention. Is 1, relevance. So according to the Wits University BQ from 2019 and 2020, we can see that less than 60 of first year students reported that they used computers in high school. And that then suggested to us that the program was needed and was relevant to the learning gaps of the first year, and that it was an imperative for our office and the institution to actually roll out and support students by providing the digital skills program. The effectiveness of the program is a second aspect that we were able to conclude. And within that, we saw that through the online offering, we were able to just break down those geographical barriers where we would normally experience a first year not being able to access the face-to-face pre-assessment of the digital skills course because, they're not in the orientation week program. They're still dealing with registration issues. They haven't traveled from a province that they reside from, etc. With this program being online, we could touch every single student, whether it was a student sitting on the other side of the world or the province or the continent, really. So we were able to really just transcend those geographical barriers. And then in terms of efficiency, what we realized is that we couldn't always detect early enough the learning gap. So we weren't always able to tell that student A is not digitally competent because we relied on the students to complete the assessment online. They weren't required to come into a lab and take the assessment like we would in a normal face-to-face setting. And what we've actually planned for the coming year of 2022 is a hybrid model, which will have a combination of the face-to-face and the online interaction. And it will just make that into one cohesive experience for the benefit of the incoming students. And in this model, we know that we're ensuring that the online and the face-to-face instruction are well integrated, and that, for students that do prefer the online space and are able to access the digital skills course, they can do that. But we also then give seat time in the traditional way to students that aren't able to. And we're also able to ensure that first years get the assessment done in the seat time, and that we can move through quickly into determining which students have the gap in terms of their competency, and then respond to that learning gap. In terms of the impact that we have made this year, we will say, colleagues, that it took quite a bit to get first years to complete the pre-assessment because it was online. There wasn't a DLU or a CLTD or an FYE mentor to really encourage first years to sit and complete the pre-assessment. We really, needed to just keep encouraging them virtually to say, hi, you need to complete the assessment. Please complete the assessment. It's important that you do. It's very much tied and interlinked to your academic success. But what we were able to do is that we were able to form and solidify our partnerships with some of the stakeholders I've mentioned here. So the LLB Law School, first years within campus housing and residence life, and within health sciences, within the health sciences faculty as well. And within that, we were able to, as CLTD and DLU, draw up those agreements with these stakeholders and roll out the program, even though it was online, but make sure that we had the buy-in of these stakeholders, and that the stakeholders themselves are really encouraging their first years to complete the pre-assessment and to really engage within the digital skills course. So that's what's been keeping us busy this year, in the absence of having the Saturday face-to-face sessions within the first semester. And then in terms of sustainability, we've actually noted that for 2022, it would be beneficial for us and for our students to have an early introduction to the course through the 2022 First Year Academy/Gateway. The Academy is a new concept that is being introduced by Wits University, and the point of the Academy is really to just meet the students at their point of need in terms of their learning and where the gaps are, because we know that we have incoming students that have missed out on 2 years of full learning from high school. So we're already preempting that even in terms of their digital literacy and skills, that there will be gaps within that, and that we would need to introduce the digital skills course earlier on through the first year academy, even before orientation week. So colleagues, I have said a mouthful in terms of what we have done as Wits University pre and during the pandemic. And I want to say that going into this discussion, the point of the discussion is so that Wits is able to learn from colleagues that are on the platform about how they have, if there is a digital skills course available in your universities, how you've been able to just effectively roll it out in the 2021 year. And if you have thought about your plans for 2022, to also have that kind of discussion, and to also thirdly look at what are the similarities and where are there vast differences in how we've approached our program versus your universities. Because the online space in terms of digital skills was completely new territory for Wits University, we also want to use this as an opportunity to learn from the different institutions, and just to take notes for ourselves as Wits University as takeaways when we go back and we go into our planning and strategizing for 2022. So at this point, just looking at the time, it's 13:27, so 27 minutes past 1. I would like to open to the floor to any kind of comments or any questions. I do have my colleagues here as well, so if you do have questions, you can field them to Wits University colleagues. But yeah, if we could maybe just please in this time, just for 15 minutes, share and learn from each other.
Neo, just before you invite the questions, can I make a special request to you and maybe to your other Wits colleagues? I've just been informed that there was some problem, I think, with our Zoom accounts. We have, in fact, another international webinar starting at 2 o'clock. Unfortunately, it has had to be on this account. Can I make a request that maybe we end your session at 10 minutes to 2 o'clock?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine, Ephraim. Apology accepted. So I think we can do 10 minutes of just the discussion, and I'll then do the remainder, which is just really the closing, to be honest, and we can conclude at 13:50. So I don't know if you are fielding questions, Ephraim, but I think I saw Lauren's hand.
Yes, Lauren's hand is up. I will also check whatever will be posted in the chat space.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ephraim. Lauren, you have the floor. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nao. Very quickly, perhaps just for everyone, if there are so outstanding questions that we don't get to by 10:02, please do type it in the chat. We are going to be posting all of these recordings on Sadie's website, and we can then, as an additional, perhaps just do a little podcast or an FAQ responding to those questions, and we can make that available to everyone as well. But now, what I'd like to first say is thank you very much for this presentation at the University of the Free State to prepare our students this year for coming into university without actually coming onto campus. We put together computer literacy content for our students, and this is within the realm of the first year seminar, but we made it available to all students, whether they were first years or seniors, etc. But what I would be interested to know from you, because what you have that we did not have is you had already been running a digital literacy short course for a while and then moved online. We created ours specifically for online. So perhaps if you could just share some lessons learned in this move to online. You've done so already, but my specific question would be around orientating students or onboarding them to digital literacy skills online is very different, obviously, to face-to-face. The reason we'd not had it so explicitly before is because we could integrate it into our first year seminar, running our classes in computer labs. Now we had to, you know, kind of front load that with these computer literacy skills. So what changes did you make to the content, and how did you accost for students who did not have computers but now had to learn computer literacy outside of, you know, the comfort of sitting in a computer lab on campus? Just some info about how you did that, please. Would be very interested to hear.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Can I, Antoinette, are you there? Tony?
Yes, I can see Antoinette is in the meeting.
I also see her here. I just
Antoinette, you can unmute and speak.
She's not. Okay. I'm going to see if Moele, would you like to tackle Lauren's question about the providing the information online versus, you know, the historical face-to-face, so those particular changes? Moele, are you there?
Yes, yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. I think definitely was a bit of a change in terms of assisting students know where to go. And as Neil mentioned, the recorded content was very integral in that regard, where videos were recorded to show students how to navigate through the course sites within the LMS, and as well as live sessions were done for students so they knew what software to use, in a way, how to use it to complete the different assessments that are part of the pre-assessments as well as the short course. So I think that's mainly how we tackled that particular issue. And in terms of students that didn't necessarily have access to computers, for those that were able to come to campus, it made it a bit easier for them to go through the material as well as the live Saturday sessions that were introduced. I think that was helpful in that sense.
Thanks, Moele. So, yeah, Lauren, I think, you know, we battled with how do we cater to every single student. So a student doesn't have a device, they're at home. How do we make sure that this is a student that can access the digital skills course? But I think Mpho's actually going to come in with the point I might be making. So I just want to give her the floor because I don't want to be the only voice that's heard. So Mpho?
Thanks, Nell. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Nell. So I think, you know, we have a university laptop drive that we have for students, but the main component that is probably something we don't touch on a lot is the fact that we have a mentorship program. So this is actually what saved us during COVID, because a month after COVID had started, luckily we had trained over 500 mentors in digital skills and digital literacy, and our mentors communicate with our students on the Wits LMS system, but we also encourage things like chatting on WhatsApp. So, you know, our mentors have played a vital role also with saying, okay, you might not know how to use this device that you receive from the university, but this is how you click, this is how you turn it on. So that's also just in terms of at a social level, on the ground, practically from a day-to-day kind of operation. That's also been a major component, apart from the videos, which were brilliant, and the Saturday classes. That's also another initiative that we've kind of used to really assist us in executing and just helping students catch up, especially when it came to the usage of devices. No, I don't know if you still want to add anything, but yes, that's just another component that we actually used.
Yeah, thank you, Mpho. So I was going to talk to the laptop drive to say, you know, the university really tried its best to ensure that all our first years had a device. So then the work was left to DLU to really encourage them to access the digital skills course, to look at the pre-assessment, to really get our first year experience mentors active in guiding and helping these first years with the course in particular. So I hope we've answered you, Lauren.
Yes, thank you so much, Naya. I have posted a whole bunch of questions. I'm sorry I did that because I'm so interested in the work that you're doing, but please take others first and answer those if there is time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ephraim, do we I think we have space for one more question.
Yes, please. I think invite one more or even two more questions.
Okay.
If there aren't any, maybe you could answer some of Lauren's questions in the chat space, and we can read them out for you. So Lauren's first question is, how did you decide on the list of outcomes covered in the short course?
Can I answer this one, Newa?
Yes, Tony, welcome.
Yeah, I have connectivity issues. I don't know, I'm in and out. So I'm hoping while I'm talking, I'm not gonna be sent out again. Before 2014, we actually met with different faculties and different schools and different lecturers. So they actually helped us in pre-designing the list of outcomes for each module because they were quite aware of what struggles their students were facing. Like, for instance, some of them indicated that the student, FSS student, would actually be brilliant, and they would say they've submitted the work. And later in the year, August, they would actually discover that these students were not able to use the LMS. They were not, they would answer the questions, but not really submit. They were thinking that by saving, they've submitted. So we took all of these questions, and then this is how now, and then we went back and forth, them assisting us in saying, can you add this, can you add that? Like in MS Word, I want a student who's gonna be able to get into a class. When I've given them assignment, they need to be able to have a header and a footer, they need to be able to cite, they need to be able to add reference list, they need to be able, like all of the stipulations. So these are some of the things working together with various schools and various faculties. This is what helped us to design the outcomes of each module. I hope I've answered.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you have. Can I bring up Dani's question? She's asking if the short course is credit bearing. Is it a credit bearing course?
So the course isn't credit bearing, but the student is given a certificate of competency, a Wits University certificate of competency. You know, but we are, you know, it's not a compulsory course, unfortunately, for first years. So we really just work hard in terms of our language and encouraging students to really just sink their teeth into the course itself. And part of that, even for us with looking at 2022, is introducing those digital badges that they can acquire over and above, you know, the certification, just so that we're really incentivizing them to get involved in the course. And there are talks of making the first year academy compulsory for all our first year students. And within that, we would then, have the digital skills component, which would then also be compulsory for our students. So yes, a certificate of competence, we require them to achieve 60% and above. But it isn't credit bearing in the sense that it does not impact whether the student passes the year or not, or the semester within their course.
Thank you, Neo. And Ku is asking, how did you select the 300 mentors?
I'll let Paul come in there. Just linking her to the first year experience program and, the first year experience mentors. I don't know if Paul's still there to answer Ku.
I am, thanks, no. So we have 500 mentors that we select, but we would recruit just over 500 because of the normal attrition and dropout rates that we usually struggle with. So this is students from second year and above, including postgrad as well. These are students who must have served in the Wits community, have brilliant academics. We sometimes do look at your demographic. We look at a lot because when we actually pair, or when we group, because it's 1 to 10 mentees, when we actually group, we try and group like versus like, just to ensure that the relationship just runs a little bit smoother. It is a professional relationship, but we try and pair we're quite strict in terms of the pairing. We would also look at things like what faculty are they in, because we don't group according to degree, we group according to the faculty. So we look at quite a few things that I don't have in front of me at the moment, but it's quite a rigorous and strict process. But that's actually also coupled with the training program that we have post the selection. Thanks, Noel.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So just to add to the training program, Ku, how we work is that once we've recruited, selected our ambassadors, they go through a rigorous training, mentorship, gender equity office, transformation. CLTD would come in for the digital skills training as well. And within that, it's really about observing as well how, certain mentors also really come through within the different components of the orientation week program, because our orientation week program is, quite large. So it's not just digital skills that's taking place during that time. There's master classes, there's campus tours. There are a whole host of activities that are happening. So we really just look at the students that, the mentors, I would say, that, seem to have a knack for the digital skills, know how to transfer the information really well, can articulate themselves really well, are confident speakers. And, it's almost like we're looking at them to administer, train the trainer. So we kind of fine tune and look at where their strengths are as mentors. And we then say, these are the 300 that will lead the digital skills program during orientation week and throughout the Saturdays. But they would have all received the other components of the mentorship training.
Thanks very much, Neo. There are several other questions in the chat space that I'm sure we can respond to them in the same space. Let me give you the last minute or so to just wind up if you have anything else to say, and then Lauren will close the session.
Ephraim, are you handing over back to me?
Yes, if you have any final statement to say, you are free to say that in a minute, and then Lauren will close for us.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the questions, colleagues. So in closing, our strategy for 2022, as I've already mentioned, is to have an early introduction of the digital skills program through the First Year Academy / Gateway, depending on what the climate is with the pandemic, you know, we are working towards an online offering for our students. And the objectives of the program are to help the incoming first years experience a seamless transition into the university space, coming from high school, and to promote social and academic integration into the university. And within that, obviously introducing parts of the social programs, part of the academic programs, and then of course the digital skills pre-assessment. So the short course being introduced there. And we want to do this so that, you know, we give them a structured academic support, which is both the content and the skills development. And we really want to help students be prepared for the space they're going into, given that they've missed so much of the teaching time within high school. So our strategy is to introduce the digital skills program online through the Ulwazi platform. So have the offering there online through the Ulwazi platform, have the digital skills pre-assessment available. That also helps us with an early detection of where our students need a lot of the support and the upskilling so that we can then come in with that. And again, to incentivize that process, the introduction of the digital skill, the digital badges that are linked to the program. So colleagues, I think, you know, going into more webinars, we'll be able to really unpack what we have done within the Academy for digital skills. And we look forward to sharing a lot of that with you, hopefully in 2022. And that wraps up our Wits presentation. Thank you, Ephraim, and thank you everyone for your contributions and being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nao. Thanks, colleagues. Nao, for Antoinette, that was a fantastic presentation. You saw that there were a number of questions and colleagues are also commenting there on the value of the presentation. Thank you so much. Colleagues, please do join us tomorrow for UCT's presentation. It'll be the final webinar, lunchtime webinar of this week, and we will be looking at UCT's journey towards data-driven decision-making, where they will share the various questions that one should ask if you would like to move towards a more evidence-based or data-driven decision-making model. And we will also be posting all of these recordings up on Sadie's website in addition to additional resources for you. So for example, from what Nao and the colleagues from Wits have just presented, you will be getting some snippets of the content that they present to students that will be available for you there as well. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, and we look forward to chatting to all of you again tomorrow. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone.